So the biggest test match of the year taking place this weekend at Eden Park. The All Blacks taking on the Springboks in what promises to be an absolutely awesome one. Now, you'll notice I'm actually underdressed for this occasion, but we have got Vik from Vik and Wern Sports Chat. We've just got Vik today. Wern not here, but he did give a little bit of insight into the lineup. How are you doing, mate? How excited are you? We're only about 4 days away from this massive match.
Look, first of all, thanks for having me. Very excited. I mean, this is the biggest match for South Africa since the World Cup final. This is the biggest match, and we are really looking forward to this. Positively nervous, okay. I would say. I put it that way. Put it nicely. We're always positive. Me, in any case, very positive person, but a little bit nervous at what you'd call squeaky bum time. I don't know where we are at the moment. I don't know exactly where we are. We weren't convincing against Australia, and it is Eden Park. You haven't lost this since 1994, where you lost to the French. I mean, 31 years is a long time not to lose at a place.
And I am young enough not to remember that test match, as I don't even think I was thought of at the stage of that match taking place. But of course, the rivalry between these two sides, it's been electric throughout the last 31 years. Eden Park, we haven't seen the Springboks there too often. Last time was about 12 years ago. But Rassie has said as well, he's nervous, he's excited, he's not going to make too many experimental changes here, going with a pretty strong stock standard Springbok lineup. So with that being said, who do you think Rassie will select in that front row?
Okay, so my front row and Wern's front row is exactly the same. So, he got that part right. We're going with Oxenchae, Malcolm Marx, and Wilco Louw. We think that's the way we're going to start.
Exactly the same as you. There is a chance maybe Thomas du Toit. Could they go with that lineup from the second matchup, or are you more convinced by Wilco from that first game?
I like Thomas du Toit because I think Thomas du Toit is very mobile. For a prop, he's quick, he's mobile. I think he's more mobile than Wilco Louw, but I think we're going experience here, and then you take Wilco Louw. I think you take him ahead of Thomas du Toit. But I got Thomas du Toit on the bench, so don't worry about it.
And the thing is, the All Blacks, they're a little bit uncertain about their front row at the moment with the return of Tyrell Lomax, whether or not he gets thrown straight into the deep end and gets that starting opportunity. But when you've got Oxenchae as the first name you write on a team sheet, you're always going to be in good hands, aren't you? That man had an incredible World Cup. He did have some very strong performances in the past up against New Zealand too. And whoever's in that 3 jersey, that's where I think New Zealand have to go with Fletcher Null, just for that scrummaging ability. It's pretty much, if you give it to Lomax, you're throwing him in the deep end from the very get-go.
I agree.
And pretty much saying good luck.
I mean, you could have put Vincent. I mean, we're not even talking about Vincent Koch. But I think it's Ox, Malcolm Marx, and Wilco Louw, and then we'll see what happens. But I think Rassie will trust them the most at the moment, and I think Malcolm Marx is the best number 2 out there at the moment. So I think we'll go with those 3.
And there was a long time where Malcolm Marx was more considered that impact player off the bench, wasn't there? But now, this season, there seems to be that change of mindset. And, he could always start. Last year, the year prior, he was always that option, and he was ready enough to be able to do that. But the fact that now he's starting to get those starting minutes, the fact that he doesn't just win lineouts in terms of his throwing, but he also wins those turnovers in the breakdown. In this type of contest, if it's extremely close, that could be the difference maker. But we talked about the lineouts briefly. Moving on to the locking duo. For this match, I am going with Eben Etzebeth, number 4. Even though he didn't play in the locking duo for the last match, he did make his way off the bench. I still think he is, he's more than talented enough to slot into that number 4 jersey. And number 5, Lutiaga. I think we're going to see that combination reunited here. I've decided Snyman more likely to come off the bench for Rassie's side rather than starting him at number 4 again. But there are honestly so many great options in the locking duo. Ruan Nokia, a man that hasn't even been mentioned. Franco Mostert as well. So for yourself, have you got that same duo, or have you got a little bit of a switch there?
No, I've actually got exactly the same as Wern. We're both going with Eben, obviously, at 4. And we're both going with Ruan Nokia to start. Okay. I don't even have Lutiaga in the team.
That's bold, I think, maybe. But then it's Rassie, so we don't really know what the plan is going forward.
We're going Eben and Nokia. Look, I just like what Nokia brings to the team. And look, he's maybe been our best lock since the Barbarian game, the 2 Italian games, the Georgia game. last game against Australia, I think he's been our best lock out there. Eben's always a 7 out of 10, but we just expect so much from the guy in any case. But I think Ruan Nokia, I think he'll start. But hey, it could be Luke Diaka, and knowing Rassie, he could all of a sudden be bloody Mostert or just name it. He could even put, I don't know, Andre Estes in there for all I care. You never know what he's going to do.
Yeah, pretty hybrid at the moment, Andre Estes, in terms of where he is being able to play. See, that's the thing. Ruan Nokia, something that a lot of people forget as well, is he was one of the main locks for last year's Rugby Championship. When there were all those other locking injuries, we did see him face off with New Zealand, and he had some pretty good success. 2 wins from 2 for the South Africans on home soil. And his just ability, with the fact that he's got that number 7 jersey up his sleeve as well, maybe with that versatility, Rassie does look in his direction. But we move on to the loose forward trio. Now, since the start of the week, there's been a little bit of confirmation that maybe Sia Khaleesi will not be able to play in this contest. Initially, it looked like he was going to be all right, but now it seems like maybe not so much. So, with that being said, loose forward trio is yours, I guess, Khaleesi-less.
Mine is Khaleesi-less. I don't even have Khaleesi on the bench. I don't have Khaleesi at all.
Okay.
Wern actually got him as a starter, but I'm overruling him. It's not a problem. No, I've gone with Marco van Staden. That's for me at number 6. That's a done deal. I don't think there's anybody else you can put in there right now. Then obviously Peter Steph Toy at 7. And I can't surprise, I'm going with Kwagga Smith at 8.
I mean, Kwagga's been an impact player for a long time, hasn't he? And the thing is, sometimes when he goes into the starting lineup, people say he doesn't quite have that same impact. But the last week's game or the week prior, up against the Wallabies, he was just absolutely smashing everyone.
He was my man of the match. He was my man of the match. Getting over the ball quickly, stealing balls. I mean, I hope Nick White's all right, because he knocked him into like next year when he threw him over like that. And Nick White hit his head really hard. But I mean, he just looked awesome last week, and I like him. And I always say he has the nicest nose in the world, man.
He's got one of the only noses in world rugby that start on his cheek, doesn't he? He's taken a few hits, Kwagga Smith, but you can see why when he's in those breakdowns and he's just throwing his body.
He's an animal. He's a monster. He's reliable. He's just Mr. Reliable. He doesn't, if I go as far back as I can think, the last 2 Rugby World Cup, whatever Kwagga's there, he never has a subpar game. Yeah. He's constant. You're always going to get a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 from Kwagga Smith. And it doesn't matter where you play him. You play him 8, you play him 7, you play him 6. He's always constant, and that's what I like about him. I don't like players that are one game world class and next game average. I like 7s all the time, maybe an 8. If everybody gives me that, I'm happy. And that's Kwagga for me.
Maybe it's that 7s background of Kwagga Smith. Very versatile in that regard as well. Question quickly. Had Jesper Wiese not gotten himself suspended, do you believe he would have been starting this game with Kwagga off the bench?
I think 100%. He would start the game. I think he would start the game. Because I think then straight away, also think if Cameron Hanekom would not be injured, I think him and Jesper Wiese could be fighting for that. And Kwagga is always going to be in the team because of his versatility, like you said. Either he starts, and if he comes off the bench, he can just help you in so many ways. But Jesper Wiese, look, not the cleanest rugby player on the planet, let's be honest.
Yeah, he collects the suspensions a little bit too often, I would have to say. But the thing is, when he's out there, you just know that he's going to be solid for the Boks. Last year, when he wasn't suspended, he was one of the standout players in the loose forward trio. And he seems to push Peter Steph Toy as well, doesn't he, in terms of those physical collisions?
And I think the opposition fear this guy. Because I think he brings a brutal physicality to the game. I think he sometimes tries to be Bucky's Buerta light, but he's tough cookie, man. He's a tough cookie. But I mean, look, you guys are, the New Zealand, you're also blessed in those positions. Let's be honest.
Artie Savia more than likely. Well, that's the thing.
He's going to go 7. He's going to go 8.
Well, he was packing down on the back of the scrum last week, but he was playing number 7. So it seems like Razor kind of wanted him to be a 7.5 and have him halfway in between, depending on the situation. But Yeah, I do think that Tupavai will be the 6 for New Zealand.
Okay.
I don't see them moving him back into the locking duo this late, unless, of course, they want to chuck Satiti into the mix as well, or Simon Parker into that number 6 jersey. Sama Penifino up against Southland, I don't think did enough to really prove why he should be starting for the ABs. But I should quickly mention Maka van Staden, he is who I have gone as the number 6. He's very good in the breakdowns. My slight concern with him is his discipline. Gave away 3 penalties in the last match up against the Australians. I kind of brushed upon it in another video. With how close it's going to be, do you think Van Staden at all is a bit of a risk, or is it's a risk reward that Rassie will be willing to take having him in that 6th jersey?
Like I mentioned before, that has always been a Springbok problem for years, discipline. Let's put it down this way. We can be right mongrels sometimes. They're not the cleanest rugby nation in the world. We know that. We'll never admit it, but we got some, But and why did we win the last Rugby World Cups? Because we didn't have as many penalties. If the Springboks can keep away from the penalties, have discipline, then they've always got a great chance of winning. But yeah, Markov, look, I think if Siya Kolisi was 100% fit and in his top form, which I don't think he's ever going to get anymore. I think we're seeing the downhill part of Sia's game right now. If Siya was 100%, I think he would actually start at 6.
Oh, okay. Rather than that number 8?
Yeah, rather than the number 8. Because I think that is his position. That's always been his major position at 6. But I don't want to sit here on Saturday, come lunchtime, our time on Saturday, and Mark Verstappen gave away 3 penalties, and my favorite kicker there, Mackenzie or one of the Barretts, whatever, kicked the crap out of the game and we lost. That would annoy me. But now I would still go with Mark Verstappen. I don't think at the moment we have a better option.
And that probably is the perfect transition to the 19 combination, because you mentioned about slotting kicks over. There's a certain man who has ice in his veins in that number 10 jersey for the Boks, or there is Rassie's X Factor player per se when he's getting it right. So for myself, number 9, I'm going Grant Williams, and I do think that Rassie will as well. For me, since coming back from that injury, he has been first pick the whole way. Like, no one else has really been that close to him. Morne van den Berg, don't get me wrong, that man did all right throughout the times that he was given the chance at number 9. In fact, he probably did a lot better than all right, but because of how Grant Williams has gone, it has kind of overshadowed that. I do know that Morne van den Berg has a bit of an injury here too, so more than likely we aren't going to even see him at Eden Park. Faf de Klerk in the team maybe could get a run at Eden Park because of that experience, but no matter what, I do think that Grant Williams will be the guy that Rassie does select. Number 10, this one, the more that I think about it, the more it becomes a bit more of a 50-50, because this is Rassie Erasmus that we're talking about. We're not talking about Scott Robertson, who isn't willing to make a change if he needs to. Andre Pollard is, I believe, the best option here, and I have one particular reason, and it comes down to the All Black selection. Caleb Clark's not available for this matchup, which does mean if you want to go for up and unders after up and unders, Cheslin Colby's going to have a field day out on the wing, because we have seen nothing from Rico Ioane that shows any sort of ability under the high ball since he has moved to that wing. Same almost can be said about Severis. New Zealand knocking the ball on almost constantly up against Argentina, trying to take that high ball. Even Will Jordan was making mistakes, and he's normally the more safe option. But I think that the way that South Africa played up against Australia in the second test match is almost classic Boks style, but boy was it effective when it came to that up and under game.
For me, got to be Williams, not Williams. And look, I don't care if he comes from the bench. I don't care if he starts. As long as Andre Pollard's in the team, my nerves are settled. Because if he comes off the bench, it means he's going to be in there for the last 25 minutes, around that. And that's when the games normally get decided. Because that man has really got ice in his veins. When I think the more the pressure gets onto him, and the bigger the stages, the better he gets. I think he sometimes against lesser opposition, like when you play the Barbarians or the Italians, he takes it too easy. But when he sees those guys in black there with that silver fern on there, I think then he's nailed on. He's nailed on. If he doesn't start, Andre Pollard, I've got him starting. If he doesn't start, I actually want to see Manie Lebok start. I don't want to see Sasha Feinberg start. I'll be comfortable with Manie starting and Pollard coming off the bench. But to be honest, if Pollard starts, I'm not going to be overconfident. Then I think it's a lot better. It's a lot better. Put it that way. Don't want to be overconfident today.
I think what would be very interesting is having a heart rate monitor on Handré Pollard for those important kicks, because it just seems like, he walks up with a stern face. It's a little bit similar to what we saw from, if you remember, Bradley Davids in that URC kickoff up against Munster. How the youngster just walked up, no emotion, just sat there and went, okay, I'll just slot this over from 40 metres, and then just looked like he was going off home. Like, he didn't care in that scenario whether or not the pressure was at its highest. And I feel like at Eden Park, a term that sometimes gets thrown around a little bit is a cauldron. You're in that pressure cooker, and Handré Pollard,
he can handle it.
I was about to say, if there's anyone you want to put in a pressure cooker, it's him, but that sounds like a little bit of cannibalism, isn't it?
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
Cannibalistic, but Handré Pollard, and also to his credit, Manie Lebok. I know people don't like him off the kicking tee, but he does set up a lot of tries for South Africa. You look at what happened last year in the Rugby Championship.
He's a rugby player. People don't understand. When I criticize Manie, he plays the number 10. So if you're at the number 10, what is the main thing you have to do? Kick.
Yeah.
And there, Handré Pollard is better. If it's a rugby player, the rugby skills, Manie's better. Manie's quicker. Those cross-field kicks are fantastic, everything like that. But you're talking about having a monitor on you for your heart. You should have a monitor on Wern if Manie plays on Saturday. I can tell you that if Manie's playing on Saturday, he starts. We've got to put one on Wern. He'll be up around about 200, 250 all the time.
Did Wern have Manie in anywhere in his 23, or did he completely leave him out at it?
No, we both don't have Manie anywhere. We don't see Manie anywhere. We have what's his name? I actually have Sasha Feinberg because of the versatility as a back as well as a fullback. So we don't have Manie at all in the team.
And that's probably where Manie's slightly let down, isn't it? The fact that he has only got that one position that he's able to play. There are quite a few guys in the Springbok side, even someone like a Grant Williams, who can pop out to the wing if needed in the later stages. And that kind of versatility in these type of matches, with the amount of injuries, we've got to remember South Africa had 4 in that first match up against the Australians. So you want to have that backup option. I do think they've got it there with Sasha Feinberg, Ngome Zulu. But moving on to the centre combination. For yourself, who have you gone with? Is it the stock standard, or is Rassie going to throw us a little bit of a curveball, even though he said he's going with the stock standard?
Okay, Jesse Kriel will play because he'll be the captain as well. I don't have CA in the team, so Jesse will be there. Well, Damien de Linde, definitely. He's done. No one taking his spot at the end of the day. If he's healthy, he's playing. I mean, he's the man that plays the most. Him and Jesse Kriel play the most minutes for the Springboks. They're kind of like, what do you call that? Those triathletes. They kind of just go for it all the time. High impact players. Now, definitely Jesse Kriel and Damien de Linde for me. That's it.
And de Linde, massive impact in the last game up against the Australians in terms of just the difference it made.
He's a big man for that position. He's a big, solid unit.
And him versus Geordie Barrett's intriguing, because Barrett, the last couple games, has really loved a crash ball. And I think that is because when you look at it, Santiago Chocobarez, yes, he's not the biggest player, but he certainly does pack a punch with the way that he goes into the tackles. But I don't think Barrett's going to be as keen to do that if he has Damien de Linde in front of them. And also, you've got to remember, Peter Steph-Toy, he just loves running up and being that assist in that scenario. So there will be a lot of pressure on New Zealand's backline. And lately, that pressure hasn't really led to too much success for the ABs in that department. So, Damien de Linde, Jesse Kriel, it is what I think Rassie will be selecting as well. Yeah. Kriel, that was a really good point about him being the skipper with the absence of Sia Khaleesi. Also, just the amount of minutes that he played last Rugby Championship. He's just one of those guys that, like you mentioned, the Iron Men of the team who, I mean, you look at him and you go, fair enough, he can play 80, because the man's in incredible shape, and he just seems
he has the same kind of body as me, just to let you people know.
You just can't see it under the suit.
You can't see that. Like I always say on the show, I don't want to take the shirt off because of the ladies, but No, JC Krill's in phenomenal shape, man.
And also just has that defensive ability to read the play. Same with Damien Dialendi. I think the best defensive midfielder in world rugby, hands down. And that might be controversial, but also at the same time, when you look at what they've done, I feel like that speaks for itself.
They've done it there as well. They've done it for a few years now. It's not been like a flash in the pan with these two guys. They have been at the top of their game now for the last 5-6 years. They've been on top of their game.
And speaking of top of the game, number 11. I feel like I'm just going to throw it out there right now. I've gone Cheslin Kolbe out on that left wing. Edwald van der Merwe being injured as well as Arendse. I think that one of those two were probably going to get to start in this match. Now, Makazole Mapimpi could also be the option out on that left wing, but I'm just a little bit worried that he hasn't played much rugby lately. And he is one of those guys, though, that you chuck back in there and he would do extremely well. He is decent under the high ball and he's got that pure pace to be able to break around the outside. Him versus Sever Reece, more than likely if that was the case. But I've gone with Cheslin Kolbe, and the reason for that is I want to see that air domination from the Springboks, and I think they are in a position where they can do it. Number 14, I've gone with Canan Moodie. He's been a little bit 50-50 at times, but one thing that he seems to always be able to do is at least be in the contest for the aerial battle. And like I mentioned, no offense to Rieko Ioane, but this is going to be a little bit of a rough statement. At times throughout that game up against Argentina, I went through and looked at every single aerial challenge from the All Blacks up against the Argentines. And Rieko Ioane, out of every player, tried to avoid the most. There was a time where he was looking at the ball over his shoulder and he missed it by 5 meters. It was off the back. Argentina managed to grab it. So those type of moments, I think, is where they did really need Caleb Clarke in that All Blacks team. I think that Canan Moodie, if I'm honest, he is a bit similar to that argument of Quagga Smith, except he's the opposite end, how he can either be a 3 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. Exactly. And it's just that question of which Canan Moodie will we get at Eden Park. If he selected number 15, Apalele Fasi, I think that his aerial ability alone probably gets him into this team. He was strong in the second match up against the Australians. They've got that experience of LaRue if they want it. They've got the option of Valimza if they want something a little bit different. But at least with Fasi, if they stuck with the same back three, they already know roughly what they're going to get heading into this match.
Oh, for me, it's difficult because... well, let me first tell you what Vern said. Then we can rip him to pieces first. He's gone Pimpy at 11.
Yep.
Kolbe at 14 and Fasi at 15. That's what he's gone for.
Sounds all right.
This doesn't sound too bad. Me, I'm still in the air there. I would go more your way. I would go Kolbe 11. Most probably Canan Moodie at 14, because I think if you're going to bring on the air station, you put him on the bench.
Yeah.
Because that gives you that option also to change the split. 6-2, you can go 6-2. You can go 5-3 with him. He does a lot. And look, I went out on a limb about a year ago. I said that Canan Moodie would be within 5 years rugby player of the world. Within 5 years, he'd get nominated because I think he's that good. Lately, my prediction doesn't look good because he hasn't been that great of late. But I would also go Kolbe 11, Canan Moodie at 14. It always the problem what I see with Canan Moodie is he's not always defensively disciplined. But Canan Moodie is very good on the up and unders as well. He's quick, he can jump high. He's not afraid to go out for those balls. And then I'm going with a big surprise. Vern had Fasi at 15, and I've just thrown Damien Willemse in there. I'm going. I think that's the. So Rassie always comes up with one surprise, and I think that's the surprise this week. I think it's going to be Damien Willemse. I think Billy LaRue's still not 100% against New Zealand. You need a little bit more speed at the back there. So it will either be Willemse or Fasi for me.
So Damien Willemse, it would certainly be a curveball, but maybe Rassie has been saving him for these matches. We know that he's got plenty of ability. There's no denying that. Fasi, in some regards, can also be considered a little bit inconsistent in terms of what he has done. And I actually think defensively, he's been a little bit of a rough one. I didn't want to say liability, but you've thrown that word out there, and it is kind of true at times.
Look at the first game. Look at the first game against Australia. I mean, we had 20 fantastic minutes we were up 22-0, and the worst player on the Springbok team was Farsi. He didn't play well in those 22 minutes, and the rest of the game he didn't play well. He can do brilliant things, and then some of his kicking decisions sometimes. I mean, he comes up with stuff sometimes where you think like, what the hell were you thinking there? You know, look, I think he's still young. He's got a long, good career still ahead of him. Look, I wouldn't be disappointed if Willemse doesn't play and Farsi plays. You know,
yeah,
because I think if Willemse plays, Farsi's not in the team at all, and I think if Farsi plays, Willemse won't be in the team because I think that backup will be Sasha Mongazulu. I think he'd be the backup. 15 and 10 backup combined. So I'm going Willemse, but you and Werner got Farsi in there. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see. You never know, you know. You never know.
The thing is, his direct comment was something along the lines of, you know, we're finished with the experimentation. But that could also be something that's just to throw off the opposition.
That means he's going to experiment.
They're naming it later than the All Blacks. So perhaps whatever the ABs select, that's where we'll see Rassi really put pen to paper and work out what is the exact best combination that they will be able to use. Of course, the All Blacks are going to be missing quite a few players in regards of no Cam Roygaard for this game, potentially no Cortez Ratima. There's no Caleb Clark, no Luke Jacobson, I see, is also another player who will be missing. So there are guys that perhaps Rassi may look at and go, this is a weak link of the New Zealand team.
Where does Will Jordan play for you guys? I want to know that. And where do you think he should play? I think he's the best number 15 you have, for me.
At the moment, the only argument people have is that Ruben Love should be given a chance at 15, but I do still think that Will Jordan, you know, last week up against the Argentines, that was an exception. Because at the end of the day, you know, you look at his try-scoring record, you look at what he's able to do, had a brilliant assist in the first match up against the Argentines. He will be stronger than what he was in that last contest. And I still think that the way that he can control a game from 15 could be incredibly important in a matchup like this. Partners well with Beauden Barrett. But sometimes when he's out on the wing, we just don't see him enough, is the one big argument I have. Out on that right wing, depending on who's trying to feed him the ball.
Rugby. He plays his club rugby at 15 normally, right?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's been a time that he's been 14 for the Crusaders, at least not in the last
He plays
while.
At 15 there. I think that's his best. I believe it's his best position. And that's a position where he scares me the most. I'm totally happy if you put him out on 14. Totally. Because, I mean, who will play 15 for you? You're going to put McKenzie in there at the beginning?
It could be an option. I know that McKenzie's been used as that little bit of an impact player, but, yeah, I don't know. That's the tricky part at the moment. The All Blacks at times have made so little changes that now if they were to do anything drastic, it could actually come back to bite them. So they are almost stuck with, you know, that same backline. Rieko Ioane out on the left wing, centres of Barrett and Proctor, and then Reece out on the right with Jordan slotting in at 15.
What you're basically telling me now is that your coach is not the bravest coach in the world.
He may not be as brave as people first thought, as I will say the comment there. I think that Ian Foster got a lot of stick for the selections that he made, yet we are now seeing those same Ian Foster selections with Scott Robertson.
Because Vern said something controversial about a week ago on one of our DEFCON rugby shows. He said, if South Africa win both games in New Zealand, your coach is fired.
Oh, no, I don't know if New Zealand Rugby have the money to be able to start
Is that a problem?
firing people. Well, he's locked until 2027, so I think it would certainly be, I think he'd be fired by the public, if that makes sense. Like, they would start giving him the Ian Foster treatment a little bit more. But at the same time, up till now, you know, Razor hasn't had the worst record ever. He started off with a little bit of a rough one, you know, losing to Argentina, losing the 2 games up against the South Africans, but, you know, winning most of those games up north. It's a hard job being a coach. And definitely when the players are the ones who are making those silly mistakes. Like the All Blacks, I think their discipline has been the one big thing that has hurt them so badly throughout the Razor era. The fact that they got 3 yellow cards in the game up against Argentina, even in the winning effort, they got themselves 2.
Long may it continue.
No, we don't want to see any more cards at Eden Park. I think both sides, if we can avoid any cards throughout this matchup.
Who's the ref? Do you know who the ref is?
It is Carl Dixon who will be in charge of this one. So he was in charge of Fiji versus Tonga last weekend, if you remember
All right.
That one? Oh,
Yes,
no, that
I
might have
did
been.
that one live.
Oh, you
Yeah.
did that one? I was trying to work out whether it was you or Vern who did end up
No,
putting in the early
everything
shift.
that's early in the morning I get to do, you see, because I'm known as the vampire, the man that doesn't sleep a lot. So I do the late night and the early morning stuff, and Vern gets, he gets to do the afternoon stuff.
It's a good combo. To be fair, I just stay up 24 hours.
There you go. Hey, listen here. You're almost half my age, man. So at your age, jeez, I would be doing this with one hand, and I'd have 3 girls on the other hand, and but not at my age anymore. No, yeah. It gets tough. Once you hit over that 50 mark, it gets tough, man. It gets tough.
I was a bit curious where that other hand was going there for a second, but moving
I'm
on.
not going to get your channel into trouble. Don't worry.
But moving on to the bench now. Have you gone with the 6-2 or the 5-3 split in this case?
Here's where it comes tough for me. I've got both. I've got a 5-3 and a 6-2 because I've got Andre Esterhuizen in the team.
Okay. I guess I am the same in terms of that. I've got Andre Esterhuizen in that 23, but for yourself, front row replacements, who have you got in that?
I've got Manus van der Merwe, I've got Thomas de Toy in there, and I've got Jan Hendrik Wessels.
Nice. So Jan Hendrik Wessels, I assume, just to give him a bit more chance. And also, to be fair, scrummaging later on in a game could be actually pretty crucial for the side.
Then I've got Franco Mostert and RG Snyman. Like I said, I've got no Loot to Jager in my team.
That's a bold one. I do think that Rassie likes Loot, doesn't he? But then at the same time, he likes Snyman for what he's able to do with those offloads, and then also Mostert.
Snyman's totally better off the bench. Snyman is, for me, the best coming off the bench. I like him off the bench. So yeah, I got Mostert and Snyman up there, and then and then obviously the same as you, I've got Andre Esterhuizen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got Vern's gone with Kobus Reinach. I'm actually going with Faf de Klerk.
Okay.
And Sasha Mongazulu. That's my bench. And I think Esterhuizen gives us that flexibility. Unless he plays Franco Mostert at the 8 like he did last week or something like that, or the 7. I think it was on the 7, Franco Mostert. You never know with Rassie. That's the problem, He is, lots of times he's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde all in one, There you go. On paper, you would say it's a 5-3 split for me, but with Esterhuizen, things can change. Yeah.
So for myself, I've got a lot of similarities to the bench that you've got. I've actually got the same backs, but in the 4-pack, I've got Manus van der Merwe as my 16. I've actually gone Boan Venter here as the number 17. And then number 18, I've got Vincent Koch. Now, that is purely because of the experience. If this game is close and going down to the wire, will Rassie rather have a guy with over the 50 caps who's been there, done that? Yeah. Or would he want one of those younger players who perhaps would feel that bit more pressure in that scenario? Number 19, Arges Snyman does fill that jersey for myself with Franco Mostert as 20. I was a little bit hesitant with those two, only because I feel like if we see an injury at 6, that could be where it gets a little bit tricky. But once again, when you've got Kwagga Smith, that's kind of that versatility in the starting lineup. So I do think if Kwagga gets injured, that's where that concern comes in a little bit. But I don't know if Kwagga can get injured because we've talked about it. He can take a pretty good hit out there on the field and he dishes one out pretty much straight away. I will ask the question, though, just because we like a little tiny bit of controversy. Arges Snyman or Kwagga Smith, who's better off the bench?
Kwagga.
Thought you might say that. Yeah, Kwagga, he's just always been good, hasn't he? Arges Snyman, I'll be honest.
I love RG, but Kwagga
one of the most unlucky players, hasn't he been? Arges Snyman throughout the time in terms of injuries and everything, but Kwagga's built different in that number 20 jersey.
He is. Like I always say, if tomorrow war breaks out and you want somebody in the trenches with you want Kwagga with you in the trenches. I mean, he's just stable. He's just stable. But now, the controversy for me is I don't have Luther Jager in the team, and you have no Rowan Nortje anyway.
That's true, and it's nothing personal against Rowan Nortje. My slight reasoning isn't off form. It's more so I think he'll play the second test match in Wellington. Okay. I think that they'll do a little bit similar to what we saw for Australia, how it's one locking duo the first match, one locking duo the second. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Arges Snyman and Rowan Nortje for match number 2. It did work pretty nicely up against the Aussies. But yeah, nothing at all against Rowan Nortje. But either way, one of us is, I assume, going to be right. And the other one, It's going to be unfortunate, but the thing is, it could go either way. Both
I mean,
of those
at the end
guys.
of the day, it wouldn't surprise me. Ruan Nokia at 4, Lutiak at 5, and Eben Etzebeth not even in the team. You never know. I mean,
Or off the bench, like they used last week. Maybe we
Yeah.
see the Ebenezer Lutiacha combination off the bench again. Couple locks adding to the stocks. But I'm on the same boat as you with Faf de Klerk. The more that I think about it, the more I think that maybe this is the game that Faf would get the chance. But then it's also coming down to that Valimza situation of, has it been too long since we've seen him to be able to just throw him straight into the deep end? Although if there was anyone who knows this All Black side pretty well, it would be Faf de Klerk.
For me, Faf. Now, when we had that first test against Australia, Kobus Reinach came on late. Now, if you want to, we all know Nick White. I call him Nick Shite. I mean, he tries to rile people. That's when you need somebody like Faf, because Faf will get in your face. Faf is that, Kobus Reinach is just a nice, he's like that son-in-law all the mothers love and stuff like that, He's a quiet kind of guy, but Faf is it's like a little bull terrier. And that's why I picked him today, because I do think against New Zealand, we need people with an attitude, and I think Reinach will play in the second test, but I think you got to win this first one, because if you lose the first one, I think the Rugby Championships. If we lose the first one, I think the Rugby Championships is gone. Win the first one, then all everything's still to play for. But you have to win this one, and of course there'll be, for us South Africans, and especially I think for Rassie, there'll be nothing nicer, nothing sweeter come around about 11 o'clock Central European time on Saturday, when we have destroyed your home record at Eden Park. There will be nothing nicer. We'll all sit down, we'll have a braai, we'll have some boerewors, and we'll just enjoy ourselves,
Well, Faf de Klerk, people forget, before he got injured, he was looking like an absolute menace off the bench in that game. Like, it actually didn't look like the normal Faf de Klerk, if that makes sense. It seemed like he had found an extra spring in his step. He found some extra motivation, and maybe that was because he knew that Grant Williams was returning not too far in the near future. But honestly, if he goes out to Eden Park with that mentality of, I'm going to speed up my game, because he was going for the snipes round the breakdown. It was almost like a revitalised type of performance. And having him and also Sasha Feinberg Ngume Zulu, like, that could be a very intriguing late combination up against New Zealand, because the Kiwis haven't been finishing matches well at times. That last 20 minutes, that's when the cards start flowing. And at the same time, the points against them start flowing as well. So, yeah, I'm intrigued. Rassie, big decisions to be made, but overall, no matter what you get here, it's going to be a strong Springbok side. I don't think there's any way that they can put out a side that would look under, 99% heading into this matchup. Eden Park on the line too, like you said. Should be great.
For me, in the rugby world, there isn't a bigger game in world rugby than playing New Zealand at Eden Park. Maybe for the New Zealanders, it's to play South Africa at Loftus is the biggest test for them. But for us, I mean, I don't care about Twickenham or Murrayfield or all these other places. This is the pinnacle. This is the biggest game in world rugby. The French will say something else, and the Irish come along, and I mean, we don't listen to the Welsh anymore in any case. But this is the biggest game in world rugby. I think. I mean, I would be surprised if the viewers on TV should break all records on TV this game, because this is since the last World Cup, this is the biggest game in world rugby.
Yeah, and the fact that it's the same two sides playing off as well, and the Rugby Championship with how close it is, every side having a win up till this point as well. This one, like Rassie, he has said, just like yourself, this game determines the Rugby Championship for these two sides in terms of who will finish ahead of the opposition. Now, of course, we have to wait to find out what Argentina and Australia are going to be doing in that kind of mix. But honestly, this game is going to be huge. And Eden Park, I just hope the weather gods decide to be nice. I know that it's supposed to rain earlier on in the day and get maybe a little bit clearer in the evening. But either way, I think we are going to see that battle of the Springboks aerial kind of challenges and New Zealand trying to counter just similar.
I'm hoping that it rains for the next 3 days. I want that pitch to be muddy and heavy and soggy. I think that helps us. I think that helps us a lot if it's a heavy pitch out there. So may the gods be with us and it rains as much as it can till then, because I think your back line is still better than ours. I don't know why. I just think if it's an open running football game, rugby game, I still have New Zealand a little edge. If it's all about keeping the ball, going with the packs, I think we still have the advantage. The rest of the world has caught up. I know we used to be a lot more dominant with our packs, but so I'm hoping for rain, torrential rain.
I think that the best case scenario is just no wind. No one likes wind, do they? Just keep it nice and stock standard. It makes it too hard to line up the ball. Definitely with all that rain that you're going to try and be seeing through in the scenario too.
And look, and at the end of the game, I hope there's a lot of rain coming from the New Zealanders' tears. But I got a funny feeling, I think this could just be a flip of the coin. I don't think one team I don't think one team's going to win by 20 points or something like that. I don't think that's going to happen. It wouldn't surprise me. It's a 1, 2, 3 point game max. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and it's just going to be about who can find their rhythm from the get-go, because these two sides...
It's going to come down to the kicking at the end of the day, I believe.
And that's where you want Pollard.
And that's why I want Pollard. But listen, hey, come on. I mean, if you take your kickers as a whole, you've got the better kickers as a whole. The Barrett, you got the McKenzie. I mean, we've got Pollard, and then it drops off if it comes to kicking. We're not that, if Marnie's out there, do you trust? Put it this way, 20 seconds to go in the game's all tied, and there's a kick from the halfway line. Would you sleep well if you were a South African and you knew Marnie was kicking, or Sasha Feinberg-Mongozola was kicking, or would you really sleep well if you knew Andre Pollard was kicking? You guys don't have to worry, because McKenzie will make it and Barrett will make it. We got to worry. That's the problem.
And it will be something small, I think, in terms of the one big moment that determines this game. And honestly, it could be a yellow card. We have seen quite a few of them from New Zealand as well as South Africa when they play each other last year.
I just don't want to see a red card. I just don't want to see a red card like in the World Cup, because that was terrible. I felt there for New Zealand there. I don't think that was right. I actually don't want to see any yellow cards in this game. Just have a good game of rugby. The best team wins at the end, Springboks, and then that there's no controversy at the end where they say, the ref gave too many yellow cards to this team or stuff like that. Just have a good game of rugby, because we haven't had a really great game of rugby. Okay, look, Australia did beat us and they deserve to beat us there. But I'm looking for a real tight, old-fashioned rugby game again where we can all get up for it and be excited about it.
The one that raises the heartbeat that little bit more, the edge of the seat stuff. And these two sides can provide that. I think that those two games last year in the Rugby Championship did show that, when they are both playing well, they can be extremely even. Now, last 4 times.
You should have won one in South Africa last year. You were not... We were not that dominant. I don't think South Africa wins both games in New Zealand. I can't see that happening. I really can't see. Best case scenario, what I'm hoping for is, for me, we win one out of the 2, and the one that we win, we get bonus points. You don't. And the one that we lose, we get 2 bonus points, and you don't get a bonus point. Or something like that. It's kind of what I'm hoping for. But because we didn't, against Australia, we missed out on bonus points and stuff like that. So even if we win, it still could get tricky for us,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If Australia or Argentina get a bonus point win and this game is close, they actually get that little bit of an extra boost in terms of the overall standing. So it is all to play for. There will be a lot of passion throughout the weekend, a lot of physicality. And then the thing is, they have to go out there and do it again the next week in Wellington. So no matter what, we've got plenty of awesome rugby coming up in the near future. But nonetheless, that is our lineup prediction for what Rassie Erasmus will be selecting now. This lineup will be announced on Thursday. I believe it's going to be an 8 a.m. Thursday announcement for you guys in South Africa. And of course, as soon as it is announced, we will be letting you know on the channel. Electric game coming up this weekend. Both sides up for it, and it should be an absolutely outstanding way to get the Rugby Championship back underway. But nonetheless, thank you very much, Vik and Wern. Well, just Vik in this scenario for popping on the channel. Of course, be sure to check out theirs. They do a morning show when it comes to all things sports. They've got a rugby recon kind of live stream / podcast type of setup where they talk all things rugby. So be sure, of course, to check them out as well. But any final words before this Eden Park Test match? Although I think we'll end up talking beforehand anyway.
Listen, yeah, I wish New Zealand's all the best, but let us win. And at the end of the day, let's just have good rugby, and I'm going to enjoy the banter whichever way this one goes.
And the banter, it will be heavy. There will be a lot of it throughout the next week or so, I would think. But then the thing is, once again, they have to do it again the next week. So there's either going to be one very happy team in 2 weeks' time, or there's going to be a lot more questions and a huge amount of anticipation for the next time that the two sides face off, if it is 1-1. But thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you all for the next one.